What's up, everybody? It's Jimmy Aquino, and it is episode 58 of Comic Beat Insider, that weekly podcast Heidi McDonald and I do since last year's lockdown began. And this month is American Pacific American Heritage Month, and or Asian Pacific American Heritage Month. And I decided to celebrate it all month on here and also on CNI. And today we've got some actor pals of mine on. And as I said, I'm Jimmy, and I'm the host and producer of Comic News Insider, the weekly podcast covering comics, TV, film, and pop culture.
And I'm Heidi McDonald. I'm the editor-in-chief of The Beat at comicsbeat.com, the news site of comics culture.
That's right. And joining us today is an award-winning actress who was the first Asian American to play young Cosette in Les Mis on Broadway and did a few other Broadway shows, including Mamma Mia. On TV, she's best known for Instinct and Odd Mom Out. She's got multiple other projects as well. So much going on. Hey, everybody, it's Olivia Oguma.
Yay,
Hi.
welcome.
Thank you. Did I say your last name right? I'm so sorry.
That's fine. Yeah, it's
No,
Oguma
don't.
or Oguma. It depends.
You tell me how you want it said.
That was fine. That was like you said it like the Japanese way, but then we
I
make
tend to
it
lean.
simpler.
Uh,
Sure.
I tend to
I,
go more towards the Asian accent.
I
Accent
have
or
a good story about my last name being butchered, but we'll get to that later.
Yeah.
But
Yeah, me too with the Kino, so I've definitely got
yeah,
that over here.
yeah.
And also joining us is my old roommate from the Selena Forever tour back in 2000, who went on to do many, many, many things, including currently recently playing Iago in Aladdin, both on the first national tour and on Broadway. And he's done other shows like Frozen, La Cage aux Folles, and more. On TV, you've seen him in his recurring role on Mom and on Superior Donuts. And like Olivia, has many, many, many other works. It's Reggie De Leon. Hey, bud, what's up?
Hey, welcome, Reggie.
Great to
Yeah.
see you.
You too, man. Awesome. Well, we're all singers, so we may turn this into another musical episode, so it'll be great.
I'm happy with that. Although I have trauma about Aladdin from my days working at Disney.
Uh-oh.
So,
Oh, God.
you
Oh,
know,
no.
yeah,
So
but it's
sorry.
okay. Maybe it's time. Maybe it's time that I confront my trauma. So
There you go. Yeah. Yeah, he did the Disney Aladdin. I did the low rent ripoff Aladdin. My first national tour with the American Family Theater. Did you ever? This is a national touring company. They do children's shows all around the nation, and you basically get in a van with other people and drive around, and the stage manager and tech guys behind you in the truck with the set and everything, and you play schools, and then you drive 14 hours and play the next school. But we played their version of Aladdin, so it's like
Nice.
with new music. So it was it was all right. And trust me, the kids showed up thinking we were the Disney one all the time because they did not advertise their
like,
Disney one.
where's
They did
Jafar?
not they did not hide it. They did not hide that it wasn't the Disney one. That's pretty funny.
Public domain. Come
Yeah,
on.
for sure. Well, thank you both so much for taking time to join us. For viewers on the YouTube live, I'm having this eye issue again, so I may turn my video off just so you know. I just might just take it out and just wear a patch the rest of my
Yeah.
life. I'll look cool.
Nice.
But for just so you know, you're both actors. You're both Asian American, just like me. I'm a recovering actor, an Asian American recovering actor. So I'm just curious, when did it all start for you? Like, when did you get the acting bug early? I mean, I have video and picture proof of Olivia, but did you guys? How about you guys? And Olivia, when did you first start? I know it's really young.
Um. Well, I got kind of into it just because my mom had put me in like commercials and modeling, so that's
Hmm.
kind of how I kind of got into it. And I didn't really know what was going on in the beginning.
Sure.
I was just kind of being like shuttled around to do stuff. And I did a lot of stuff when I was little. And I do remember a conscious decision at a certain age, because even when I was like on, like, I definitely wanted to do singing. I wanted to do Broadway and shows, and that was because I saw The Secret Garden. I grew up
Oh,
in
nice.
Manhattan. I grew up in New York City, and I lived in Manhattan, like I got to see a lot of theater. And for some reason, The Secret Garden was like, oh, that's it. And that's when I asked my mom for singing lessons. And I
Ah,
think that's what started like wanting to do theater and wanting to do acting as a kid. But the conscious decision to actually continue to do it, I mean, it's like I don't actually know how to describe it, but I definitely remember being, oh, like, oh, now I'm an adult and I have to decide if I still want to do this because it was
mhm.
kind of already set up in a weird way. But I was, I turned 18 and I already had an equity card and a SAG card, and I had paid.
Wow.
So it was weird, but I also was
Yeah.
like, now I'm an adult and I have to reinvent myself as an adult. And for like years, people just were like, I think when I turned 18, I was like, okay, I still want to do this, but I was like fighting the fact that everyone thought I was a kid.
Hmm.
I'm
Still
barely at it
fighting that.
now. Yeah. Yeah, I had casting agents be like, "Oh, I just don't want to see you like kiss someone. Like that's weird, you know." And so like I've had to fight like child actors. There's a lot of us, like not like ones that were famous, but ones who were like doing theater or like lame as kids like that. It's an interesting transition and it's really hard. And I mean, I have to make a conscious decision all the time to continue, even now, to be honest, because
I
it's
hear
really
you.
difficult. And I just found out I didn't get a huge job like a few days ago, and I
Oh,
told you it was like
I'm
I
sorry.
I've been really down because even though I know, it's really big deal to test for a pilot. You get that far, it's a huge deal, and it's happened to me 6 times, but I still haven't had a win on
Hmm.
testing for a pilot. And it's one of those things where every time you get really close, or every time I get really close on something and it doesn't go my way, I always end up reevaluating because
Sure.
I do love what I'm doing when I'm doing it,
Hmm.
but I also have a very difficult process with auditioning.
Hmm.
I have a difficult process with being able to continually put myself out there. It's hard. It's hard.
Well, that's the thing about the
A
business
really long
people.
answer to the
That's
question,
all
but
right.
yeah,
It's the
yeah,
thing about the business people is that like they don't understand is the actors we're constantly, or when I used to do it, we're constantly looking for a new job. Even
right,
when we're in a job, we're looking for a new
yeah,
job. And it's like you get rejected 100 times, you'll get one job out of those 100 auditions.
yeah.
But Reggie, when did you first start?
Much later than Olivia.
Same.
um, grew up not. I mean, I always loved singing and stuff, and I realized I could make people laugh when I got nominated 3 seconds before having to give a speech for a friend who was running for like eighth grade class president.
Nice.
And I was like, oh, cool. Like people are laughing and I'm just being myself. So uh, I kind of discovered that a little early on, but you know, growing up in kind of like our era, Jimmy,
Hmm.
we didn't see people like us
Yeah.
represented anywhere
Yeah.
on screen, on stage, or
Hmm.
anything. So when I was 19, the national tour of Miss Saigon was in town. I live in LA,
Nice.
and I didn't really see theater growing up, but a friend invited me to go see Miss Saigon. It was the first time I'd ever seen Asians like on stage.
Oh, nice.
And I was like, wow, there's like people who look like me and they're like doing this like for a living. Like
Hmm.
that's a thing.
Yeah.
I didn't know that was possible. And I was
Right.
at USC at the time and studying public relations. And I was hoping to kind of get to work in the entertainment industry somehow that way. But I saw Saigon and I was like, oh, okay, maybe I could try to see what this is about. So I started auditioning for theater and I got cast as Prince Chulalongkorn in Disney
Yes.
Guy, even though I was like 20 already at the time.
That's what we Asians do. We play much younger.
Asian don't raisin.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
so yeah, I got that, and that sort of kind of got everything started.
Mhm.
And I've been kind of lucky and have been able to make a living at it, which is
It's awesome.
wow. That
Yeah, the
two
King and I is
really
definitely we've
different,
all done. Yeah.
really different trajectories. Very interesting.
Yeah.
How both
yeah.
of you got into that, and just Olivia, just as a writer, I have to say, anyone I know who's an actor, I just give all the props because as a writer, somebody rejected my piece. Well, there's something wrong with it, but in acting, it's a lot more
Very
personal.
personal.
Yeah,
It's
A
very
real
I
personal.
think
personal thing, and it's something you can't
yeah.
change, maybe. So I really feel for that process. You have to have a thick skin at some
Hmm.
point.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, it's resulted in me taking long breaks. Like
Mm.
this is actually Jimmy, I haven't seen you in a while, but
Yeah, it's
I
been a good.
pretty
Yeah.
much took a year off and of course in the pandemic I decided to become an actor again, really smart. So it was like January and I was like, "Oh, now I've got to find a new agent." And I'm like
Mhm.
on Zoom in my mom's house like trying to find an agent. And I did, which was amazing and crazy. But then auditions were all just self-tapes and there was no theater. So it's a really weird time to just kind of like re-emerge myself. But I was just, yeah, I got to a place like Heidi said where I just couldn't put myself out there the way that I needed to in order to continue. I just wasn't, you have to enjoy auditioning like a little or a lot because you're doing it a lot. And I had gone through a lot of family stuff and I had lost my dad. And I was just like, I wasn't interested in putting myself out there. It sounds weird to like bring it up in a connection. I just couldn't do it. I couldn't, and I do a lot of stuff that's like comedy, and I couldn't be funny because I was too sad. It was just all this stuff. So I didn't audition, and I didn't do anything for a large chunk of time. And I left New York, and I backpacked by myself through about 30 countries.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
Wow.
And the thing that ultimately made me come home, because I had no end in sight, I had found someone to live in my apartment, and I was basically just living in hostels and tents. I mean, I was really, I was not like spending a lot of money. I was actually like weirdly saving money because I was doing my other job, which is editing film and reels from my computer. So I was like living in Thailand, but like, with the exchange, I was like having this kind of crazy great life. Yeah, and then I got a weird call like after not being an actor for a year from my manager who stayed with me through this discovery period. I didn't have an agent, but I did have a manager at the time, and he was like, "So, do you want to come back and do the Lincoln Center Directors Lab in August?" And I was like, I literally don't think, I think if I don't say yes, I might never come back. So I came back and I had to find a place to live. And it was like, I was still had this person living in my house. I was just like back in New York from this crazy trip. Like, I'm going to be an actor again, and it was really, yeah. So, yeah.
That's what's great. Like, I couldn't even backpack for 30 minutes, much less 30 countries. Right.
Yeah,
I mean,
But that's amazing.
It sounds
but
like you could star in the next Chloe Zhao movie there.
Wow,
so,
man.
you know.
Yeah.
Yeah, no,
That's
I was really, I'm actually writing about it right now.
That's awesome.
Yeah, so.
Well, I think it's also a testament to your talent that you can take time off and they're still like, yeah, we got something really big for you. Come on back for it. You're like, it's like, well, I've been off for a year. I'm like, yeah, but we know your work. It's cool. So that's always giving you talented. Yeah, that's really nice. It's not weird. It's your talent. Calm down. You're talented. All right.
I think, yeah. I think I was lucky enough to have done enough that people kind of just were like, oh, Olivia's, not around right now. But when I came back, it was like, I don't want to say like I hadn't been gone.
Yeah.
But I guess that,
Yeah. Well, listen, no one's gonna forget.
In your 20s, it's like, yeah, and they're like, I didn't. I was like, oh, Olivia looks the same. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Right.
No one's gonna forget the Bumblebee and Regis and Kathy Lee. All right, we'll always remember that. Can I show them that real quick? The Bumblebee vid. Let me show. Okay, I'm gonna share the screen. This is adorable. So if you wanna where do I go? I just gotta set up share here. So basically, Olivia, you were how old when this happened? You were
Oh gosh, I don't even know. I feel like I'm walking, so I'm probably like 2 or 3.
Oh my God.
Look at this. Regis and Kathy Lee.
Oh.
She's on. And then it's not playing. There we go. Look at this little face. So look how happy and adorable she is.
Oh, so cute.
But then some jerk comes on around 40 seconds in, thinks it'll be funny to scare the kids.
No.
And this happens. So this dude in a cow costume comes in.
Hey, Jimmy, you might want to take your chat off there.
Yeah.
Chat.
And poor this one.
Oh my God! What a monster!
Jerk.
What a jerk!
And then they keep. What I love, they keep going back to you. They're like she's crying her eyes out. And they go back to her. But poor Olivia. I think they end the segment on her. just pretty amazing. Like, oh my god, like in the camera, like why would you go back to the young crying child? It's
Yeah.
like,
Oh, well, because it's
so
adorable. I
cute,
mean,
so
geez
cute.
Louise.
Did you ever find who was that guy that did that? Who was that? That wasn't Regis?
Oh,
No,
that's Regis.
that
Wait,
was Regis. That was
It
Regis.
was
You're right. It was
Regis?
Regis. All right, yeah.
the whole clip. Yeah, he
for
was
sure.
gonna come out in a costume and like it's. Yeah, and it was scary.
Yes.
I don't
Regis,
even
you
know.
jerk.
I mean, yeah. So that happened.
That's hilarious. It's so cute. It's so
Yeah.
cute though. Yeah, so going back to just like, as a kid, like for me, I remember showing interest really young because I always sang, always danced, and always sort of like wanted to do things. I wrote little plays, I did little things like that. And then I started doing like little things around town and in school, obviously, any chorus thing I'd want to sing in, and any little acting plays I'd want to do, things like little bits like that. But you're just a kid. But even then, I remember saying, I want to be an actor. I want to be an actor when I was really young. And then my first professional gig, which for many Asians is The King and I. And I was a kid. I was like 18 or 19 though, and I got like a dinner theater in Florida. And yeah, and I moved to New York for it. And then after like that last national tour that broke me with me and Reggie, the pre-Broadway run that never made it to Broadway and got canceled after 3 months on the road, which actors again, nothing's guaranteed. It's like, oh, it's gonna pre-Broadway run, get all this money through, like a $2 million set. We're throwing all this money at it, and then just didn't do well. So then I took, like Olivia, I took my time to step away and get back into another work I enjoyed, and then never went back really. So I do miss it on occasion, but I enjoy seeing friends like you guys go on and succeed and do things and sort of live vicariously through you. So that's really great. So I want to know, like for me, like growing up, getting I did all sorts of roles, obviously, and like I said, The King and I, obviously, things like that. But it took me a while to notice when I was getting cast for either my talent or my look. You know what I mean? So, or like, maybe a little bit of both, but like a lot of times, like, well, we need a token ethnic person here. That's what it felt like to me sometimes. Did you start noticing that? Has it ever happened to you like that, where you're like, oh, I'm in this, yeah, I'm talented, but I think they need an Asian person, or I think they need an ethnic person. Did you guys ever notice that? Like at what point did you notice it, if you did?
I don't know if it was kind of ever that overt, if you know what I mean. I feel like,
oh, you didn't grow up in the South like me. That's right. That's right.
Yeah, I mean, I'm very lucky being born and raised in LA. It's such a melting pot, and anything different that's foreign to me. But I mean, there are times when I look around a room and realize I'm the only ethnic person there, but it takes a minute.
Yeah. Okay.
And I've been lucky in that I've done a lot of projects that aren't specifically Asian or any particular ethnic group. I mean, when we did Selena, we were both supposed to be Hispanic.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
Like,
well,
how many times I played that?
You both have, the Hispanic last names,
right? Right.
Well,
exactly.
I mean, Spain ruled the Philippines for 300 years.
Right.
So
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yes. Which is, you learn, you figure that out.
But everybody ruled the Philippines, like Japan did, America did. I think Rhode Island ran it for a year. I don't know. It's like
Rhode Island.
Everyone took it over. Hey, listen, Magellan sailed around the world till he got to the Philippines, and we're like, nope, dude.
That's right.
Ended there.
And no more colonialism.
That's
it
right.
Stops here.
That's right. Yeah, Olivia, how about for you? Did you ever?
Well, okay, this is layered because in Les Mis, like I know I was.
Uh-oh. She froze.
What she was about to say. You dropped out for a minute there when I said in Les Mis, so it was so explosive that the gods came and shut you down.
Let me actually also turn my phone off because sometimes I can't be on Wi-Fi in two different devices.
Yes.
You were on a castle in the cloud, and
yeah, no, I mean Les Mis was just weird because like at that time in Les Mis, they just didn't have anyone who had ever been in the show who was like knowingly, and I'm saying this is weird, knowingly POC except for Lea Salonga, meaning that years later, I actually looked at the cast list and realized we actually had quite a few Latinos, but they were using like stage names. Like I found out that like several people were actually Latino and they were using like different names. And then I found out that like one guy in some company was actually Hapa. Like they were like, but it was just very like at that point there were no little girls auditioning that
Mm.
weren't white. That's the
Right.
easiest way to put it. So I remember thinking that it wasn't a big deal to me then, except that I knew people had been warning me, like my mom trying to warn me I might not get it. And then I got it. So it was like, oh, there was definitely this thing. But in terms of tokenism on Broadway, yeah, I mean, I will say I don't think I've ever gotten a job just because of the way I look, but I think it has helped or hurt, meaning like, oh, we realize we don't have any Asian people in
Yeah.
this episode of this show. Should we cast Olivia? She's good and she's just as good as this other person.
Yeah.
That's the kind of stuff, and it's not really in front of us, but like I've seen it. I've gone
Yeah.
to see things that I'm in and realize I'm the only one.
Yeah.
And I've also been told a lot of times when the character is not specifically written as Asian, there tends to be a conversation. Um, and this has happened to me this week actually, where the language gets very like, we have to see how you fit into this world. And I'm thinking, I don't.
It's
It's
the world.
almost as if they're talking about you, like you have, like, yeah, like I don't
I'm
even
in this world. Why do
say.
I need to fit into it? Yeah.
You're right. It's like, have you looked around
It's
this?
not a period piece. We're not Amish. I don't know what. It's not a period piece in like some Amish horse and buggies. Like I don't know, Oregon Trail times where you're like, how are we going to justify this Japanese girl with purple hair being here? I mean, we're talking about things that are set in modern day Seattle or New York
Yeah.
City. So
Yeah.
I need to calm
Yeah.
down.
Well, no. I'm
No,
talking about like,
no,
like,
yeah.
like, like
So
when,
that
when
kind
I
of
was,
stuff.
yeah, when I was
That's
younger.
not, yeah.
Yeah, when I grew up in the South, obviously, I grew up in Jacksonville, and we did community theater, and we did. I just knew that if there was an Asian role, like anything goes. Now, I was cast because I can dance and sing, but also there's two specific little Asian roles that was one of the many roles I had. The two Chinese craps players that are often now like just written out. They have like 6 lines each, and they play craps and like they wear the traditional China. I'm like, yep, and I remember that. Yep, I'll be the one of those. And then when I did the City of Angels, there's the Dr. Yamamoto, the Japanese doctor. Like when they were like, you're gonna be a. And I remember when I got cast, and we did a big thing and they were talking about who's cast as well. Like Jimmy's gonna be one of the featured dancers. He's gonna be this and that. And he's also Dr. Yamamoto, and I was like, surprise! It's like, of course I am. So
Yeah.
things like that, I knew they're just gonna give to me. And then, but like to Reggie's point about Selena Forever, what we did, me being half Filipino, we even to the extent for Southeast Asians in general, I think we contend. I noticed when I moved to New York, everyone thinks I'm Spanish. So I'm very ethnically ambiguous. So I played when I had long hair, I was Native American. I played every type of Asian possible, every type of Latino possible, I think. Um, but I'm curious too, like, and I think Reggie obviously as well, because I think Southeast Asians can sort of maybe have that look, like that as well, like can look sort of Latino. But I'm not sure about East Asian. Have you ever had to do that yourself, Olivia, where you played something beside like another ethnicity, like a Latino role? Do they ever consider you for that? Things like
No,
that.
I mean, that's to be honest, like that conversation's really layered right now.
Yeah.
We're not in a place right like if like Filipinos playing Latino is still kind of accepted because of the actual DNA makeup of what it means to be Filipino, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the fact that most of Filipinos have a considerable amount of Spanish DNA actually. But it wouldn't be appropriate for me to play Latino unless they rewrote the role. And I've been up for roles that were like, oh, she's Latino, and then I tested for a pilot like 2 years ago that the character's literal name was Torres, and I didn't get it, and they didn't want to rewrite it, and that's cool, and I'm fine with that. That's actually an uncomfortable situation for me. That's not my job to get. Just as I don't want. I actually think Eva Longoria was offered this job. I mean, this is
Wow.
And I think, as just as I don't want Eva Longoria to play the Japanese American role, I don't think it's so that's
I was talking about more in your past, like if you had
in the
ever,
past,
like,
I think,
you're younger.
no, actually I haven't been I haven't been in the past. It hasn't really come. I mean, I don't. I think that I have played a ton of Chinese and Korean, and
Sure.
you know,
Yeah.
I've played Vietnamese. I've played all that,
Same. Yeah.
but I have not ever been asked to play a specifically Latino, Native
Okay.
American, and I've kind of been um taught that that wouldn't be appropriate, I think.
Yes.
And I think, yeah,
Especially nowadays, it definitely is. But back
it's,
then, it
yeah,
was like, I how many West Side Stories I did where there's like you guys may know Jay Elaine Marcos, a good friend. We did West Side Story together back in the day. We're both Filipino. We even had our Chino, which I guess sort of makes sense. Our Chino was a Chinese American guy. Like
yeah,
and like at least the lady and I sort of as Southeast Asians kind of passed,
right.
but he like definitely looked he's Chinese American.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No,
But
I've
maybe
never
that's why
done
he's
that.
nicknamed Chino. I don't know. It's like it's like
I've never done a West Side
That makes
Story,
sense.
and I just know there's been like now more of a controversy
yeah.
about. I know someone who did it who was Chinese, and she played Maria,
Mhm.
and it was something that happened a long time ago, but
Yeah,
it
yeah,
got
same.
brought up on like a Facebook group recently, and it was just like,
Yeah. Yeah.
so yeah. I think that there are opposite ends of the spectrum, and somewhere in
Mhm.
the middle is better because honestly, like, I don't want to get to a place where it's so. I don't want to be told I can't play Korean. I mean, if we get
Right.
to a place where I'm only allowed to play, I'm part Kazakh, okay? Like,
Yeah.
who's from Kazakhstan? Do you know it? Are they writing roles for Japanese Kazakh women? No,
Yeah.
we can't get there. I
Right.
think I'll never
We'll
do anything
make it there.
for it,
We'll make it there.
you know? So, but I also don't think I should be playing Latino, but I'm also like not sitting here waiting for someone to write a role about,
Right.
Kazakh Japanese women. Like,
Well, I
that's
think
not,
that's a good point. And
yeah.
To Reggie did some voices on our friend Kui's movie Ride and the Last Dragon, and this had a bit of controversy, which kind of annoyed me. To Olivia's point, because
Behind me.
it definitely right. I love that movie; it's great, and I felt like it represented all sorts of areas of Southeast Asia, everywhere all over. But then people are like,
Mhm.
"Well, you have a great Asian voice cast, but it's not like Daniel Day Kim's Korean. That's not Southeast Asian." I'm like, I
Right.
think that's okay. I think that's all right. I think we're getting there. Baby steps. We'll have the actual person play the actual background play that. But I think it's okay if Daniel Day Kim voices a Southeast Asian.
And
And
he
it's
was
like,
Yeah.
great. Like
yeah,
he was wonderful in the role.
he's amazing. Yeah,
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But
and I think
I mean, I will throw in, I put up, I live in a tiny New York apartment that's cluttered with books, so I always have a background here, and I put up Raya, but it is like over the course of this month, I have become much more sensitive to the issue of what is Asian and what is Asian American, because
mm,
it's, I think that's really part
yeah,
of the dialogue that we're having now, and a lot of my friends who are Asian American talk about is that it's American, So I hesitated a little bit before putting Rye up, but then I was like, it really has been kind of the theme of
mm,
this month,
we are
just because a
Kumandra.
lot of
Yes,
Asian Americans worked on this film, to
yeah,
tell an Asian legend.
yeah,
But yeah, I mean, is that that part of the identity, I think, is something that I've heard people keep talking about, to be accepted, like this is American. We talked about it with Minari when we talked about it, that, this is not a foreign story. It's not the far off Orientalism. These are American stories. These are American people just doing what they do.
yeah. Kui
Yeah.
is from Arkansas too. He's like Minari spoke to me because I was like
Yeah.
that was like miles away from where I grew up. He's like, yeah, I didn't grow up
Wow.
on my days. Like, my dad didn't farm, but it was like, yeah, it definitely reminded me of his youth for sure. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah. So what are some of the you just did like extra voices on that, Reggie? What did you do in Raya?
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I when I watched the film, there were a few moments where I was just like, "Oh, that's me," But it was like such a quick passing moment, you know. But I mean, just to be able to be a part of it was so
Mm,
cool and so special. I mean, it's been how many years since like Mulan,
yeah, sure.
So the fact that this was Disney's first Southeast Asian centric film, um, it was. I mean, it just felt very special. So
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah.
very
Now,
grateful.
do you do a lot of voiceover work, or?
Yeah, I'm trying. It's a very difficult field of the industry to break into. I have a wonderful voiceover agent now who I've been working with for a
Nice.
couple of years, but yeah, I voiced a character in the Will Smith Spies in Skies movie that came out a
Nice.
couple of years ago. So that was cool. My character got like thrown out of the building by the villain, and like that was fun. That was fun to voice that.
It was
But
weird
yeah,
when they had you physically be thrown out of a window. I was like, that's not, I've done
That was
voiceover. Why are you actually throwing me out? That's weird.
I was like, is this really all part of the audition? Like, that's strange.
Well, I mean, you do, obviously, you did a lot of stage work, had to be on stage with Jimmy, which, oh my God, amazing.
Heidi's never seen my acting days at all.
Survivor, just a
no
survivor.
idea how brilliant I was.
But anyway, Reggie, you do stage. Obviously you're on some of the sitcoms we watch all the time. Which do you have a preference for any of these, or which?
My favorite format to work in is a multicam sitcom, because you have the rush of working like on the stage, kind of, because you film in front of an audience. Sadly, during the pandemic, I got to recur on Mom for pretty much the entire 8-season run, and I did an episode during the pandemic, and we had no audience, and it was so weird, But
kind of like some of our Selena Forever audiences, like where are they?
It was like a matinee.
Where is
Arkansas? No offense to Arkansas. But I love getting to work on that specific genre, because it blends like my love of live theater with the money of television.
Beautiful. Well put. Well put.
To be completely frank. I mean, but I also enjoy, because having done long runs of shows, like 8 shows a week, it's challenging. I mean, the schedule is really it's hard. And I'm not young anymore, so to be able to
2 show days are killer, man.
Yeah, man. I mean, it's just it's a lot, and I mean, I love it. I love doing live theater, and given the opportunity, I will always do it. But for a multicam, the schedule is amazing. You come in at 10, you're usually done by like 1.
Awesome.
And I'm making myself sound really lazy. That's not the case at all. I
can attest.
I love to work. But no, the thing is too, that's great about a multicam is you have a different script every week. And I like the breakup of monotony, because, doing the same show 8 shows a week is tough too mentally, because you're like, I'm doing the same show.
Yeah. Although every show is different, as we're taught. And
Absolutely.
It's true. It is.
Yeah. But, in order to keep the integrity of the piece, you have to maintain,
sure.
Yeah. So anyway, that's
awesome.
my favorite. I love it. And I've gotten to do a few series, multicam series, and it's just, it's any actor who's ever gotten to work on one will tell you it's like the best job ever.
That's cool. Awesome. How about you, Olivia? Do you have a preference? Stage over film or TV?
Yeah, it's just such a weird question, because it's like I don't have the luxury, I think, of choosing, if that makes any sense. I actually think that the conversation about I've never done a multicam, and I've like always thought like, oh God, that would be so that would combine the best of both worlds. Because realistically, like I have never been able to say I want to just focus on TV, or I just want to focus on film right now, and basically, yeah, like even when theater, it's really hard to make a living doing theater, and that's the bottom line. Even when you're in a Broadway show, unless it's a long running one and you're going to commit to staying there forever, you really just can't. I mean, I did Mamma Mia when I was 19 years old, and that's how I bought this apartment, but I didn't stay there, and everyone was kind of like, why don't you just stay? You can just stay. And I was 19, and I was like, I can't stay right now, because I don't have a family, and I don't need, like if I had gotten that job now, I probably would keep it for a while. But at that point, I had all these other opportunities coming. I'm making it sound like I was so popular, but like, I didn't have all the. I just, it was just not the time for me to stay. So I did it for a year, because I left to go do the High School Musical first national tour, where I played Kelsey, which is actually cool, because I was playing that a character who in the movie is a white girl. And I remember
Nice.
when they cast me, they were really trying to make it look like the movie, and then they decided to like let me play this part, and it was really cool. And then
Yeah, that's great.
subsequently, all of the regional productions of the show cast Kelsey as Asian, which was
That's
kind
oh,
of
that's great.
Wow, nice,
I
nice.
ran into I feel like her Emmy Basic and somebody else who I knew, and they were like, oh, we're playing Kelsey at the North Shore, I'm playing Kelsey at this, and
Mhm.
like that's all because of you. And so that was cool.
That's
But yeah,
amazing.
I mean, theater, to go back to the actual question, that's the thing, is like, even when I'm like, oh, I've just not had the luxury of ever being like, oh, I can really just focus on one thing right now, because if I'm not making money doing TV, then I'm like, okay, fine, well, at least I can do a play and maybe get my insurance. It's like that kind of mindset of like,
Yeah,
oh,
sure.
well, I might not make any money doing this play, but then I can get my insurance because I'm not really doing TV right now. Blah blah blah. It's just, so I've definitely prioritized as I started to do TV more. Like the first time I had a recurring, I was like, okay, I can only really get this recurring, I think, if I'm not leaving town all the time to do regional work. So
Yeah.
that's when I started to stop doing region, because
Yeah.
I was just like, I will keep working.
Mhm.
Object in motion continues to stay in motion. So I was like doing Miss Saigon in like a Florida, in a barn in Florida. I don't know, and
Yeah.
I had like,
I
Broadway
worked in
three
that
times.
barn in Florida. Yes.
I'm like, I've been on Broadway three times, and I was like, sure, I'll play Gigi in your, in your backyard, and I didn't need to be doing that. So I finally like got it together to be like, all right, find some sort of survival job in New York and stick around, and then do theater in New York, even if it's off Broadway, people will see you, and try and do TV. And that was like my light bulb moment, because I had been just really just doing whatever, and I was on like a third Miss Saigon somewhere random, and I was like, and I was at a point where I had already done Broadway, I had already done all these things, and it wasn't necessarily backwards. It was just like I needed to make the decision to stay put for 5 seconds so that I could start cultivating more of the work that I wanted. So yeah, but I still have never been able to actually consciously decide. Like right now,
Sure.
it's been decided for me that I don't do theater because there is,
Right, right, right,
you
right,
know.
right. For sure.
So yeah, and I hope one day that but I will say, every time I'm on a series and I'm making good money and I'm like, on it a lot, it does make me feel like, okay, good. Well, the next time I do a play, off Broadway play for $400, I can kind of afford to do it. So like
Yeah, exactly.
yeah, that so for me, it's just like, it's really both. I think that I need both of them in my life, but I
Sure.
also haven't really ever been able to like actually consciously decide which one I'm doing. It's
Yeah,
just,
I never had the luxury of being. I did mostly theater, and I did some bit stuff. I did like day player stuff on Guiding Light back in the day under five work, which I actually kind of enjoyed. But then I remember doing extra work on a film, and I fucking hated it. And I was like, "This is the worst," It's like I hate it, and I never did extra work again. But I want to go back to your point, Olivia, what you were saying about the High School Musical playing Kelsey. That's really important. I think that's happening more and more, and I think it needs to happen more where the original thing is white, but let's make this, an ethnic, an ethnic person of color play this. And I think one of the smartest things they did, speaking of Saigon, I remember years ago, I'm not sure what, it might have been the Broadway production, where they made Ellen Asian. And I was like, that
yeah,
makes
the
so
first
much sense.
first
That
the
makes
first it
so
was
much
it was
sense.
Margaret Ann Gates, and
Yeah,
she was the understudy, and then they decided
yeah.
to move her up. Yeah, yeah.
That made so much sense because Chris clearly, liked Asian women. It seems, like that. I mean, it's like, why wouldn't he marry another when he gets back home? But I did think it made a lot of sense. I thought that was really great. But we are starting to notice that more and more, that there's more, a little more diverse casting. Not enough, certainly, still a long way to go. There is more diverse casting, be it whether they're trying to like fit, as Olivia was saying, fit like a, oh, they need a quota or something like that. They need an Asian here, they need something, that a person of
Mhm.
color here, or that they're consciously like, no, we really need to do this because this is what the world is around us.
Mhm.
At least it's fun. The conversations are happening and finally happening, which is great.
Mhm.
But I feel like it's like there's still such a long way to go. Um, what like you see these things where big actors are still taking roles they shouldn't be taking, and you talked about that with like the Latino role, but it's like, we need people like Emma Stone and Scarlett Johansson to step down. It was great when Ed Skrein stepped down from Hellboy, because
Yeah.
he was like, oh, it's a Asian character, I shouldn't be playing.
Right.
But he's great, but he's not Emma Stone or Scarlett
Well,
Johansson.
that was the conversation everybody was saying. Like that was why that meant so much, was because he actually
Yeah.
really needed that. That was actually going to put him on the map, maybe.
Yeah.
He didn't do it, and he didn't
Yeah.
do it because people pointed it out to him, and then he apparently, not apparently, like then he like went to dinner with Daniel to like
Mhm.
talk about, you know, like,
Yeah.
and that's like, you know, yeah. But I think Scarlett and I don't even think they're conscious of the fact that this was,
Part
you
of me
know,
believes that too. Yeah.
I do think they were offered the role and they did it. And that's the thing. And then they were like, oh, maybe. And then people brought it up to them and it was already like, I'm doing it. And
Yeah.
that's the thing that really is
But
not
also, they're well off enough and well known enough where they could like step away from doing it. You know what I mean?
right.
Like,
Well,
you found
I
out
mean,
late, but you could
I
still step away. You don't need that new car, pool, or house.
I mean, I
You're
want
fine.
to, you know, I don't want to defend Scarlett Johansson and all of these, you know, like she's really got her wrist slapped on taking a lot of different roles.
Yeah.
But the mindset there is in Hollywood up until maybe like literally, you know, a week ago was just so narrow. And you know, there's a great article on Vanity Fair about how Randall Park is going to direct a adaptation of Shortcomings, which is Adrian Tomine
Mhm.
graphic novel.
Yeah.
And, you know, Adrian Tomine is Japanese American, and it's about, you know, him, based on some of the things in his life, but, you know, it's about all these situations. And he talks about, you know, people have been interested in Hollywood in adapting this, but they're like, you know, how can we make it
How can
more
we white it up?
universal?
How
Which
can we
Yeah,
is
white it up?
yeah, universal. How do we fit you into the puzzle? What do you look like in this world? It's all the same stuff. And
yeah. And I mean, it's just like why this is universal. It's a story about someone who doesn't know how to relate to women. It's pretty
Yeah, yeah.
universal.
I mean, I don't get it, but whatever, man. It's cool. But,
Yeah, but it's a really great article. You know, Randall Park just talks about how, you know, he read the book and, you know, his own career, you know, going from the background roles and now, you know, accepted as somebody we love so much. But yeah, I mean, I hope they
like
get,
as a romantic lead, you know,
yeah,
he's great, you know.
I hope we get to make this.
Always Be My Maybe was fantastic.
I
You
hope
know?
we get to make the Shortcomings movie because it just sounds so cool.
Mhm.
And you know, it's a great comic. So I love Adrian Tomine's work. So I hope it
Yeah.
gets made.
Yeah, we definitely need more and more of that. You know, like I said, more. But that is the problem, I think, with how he was saying is that, like, you know, they
Yeah.
do look at these products and still to this day, still these products go, oh well, we could change that character and make them white. You know, we could change those characters and, like, you know, there is some talk of like changing those characters, like with Olivia, let's make them a person of color. But it's still happening the other way. I feel too much more, and they are
yeah,
getting backlash for it.
I think the backlash, well, the thing is that when we get into like obviously the national tour of High School Musical in
Mhm.
2007 is not as high profile as, you know, a major huge movie. Where they're like, if we put somebody, if we're, you know, where if Scarlett plays the lead, that's going to make people more comfortable, you know, like that kind of
But
thing.
also bigger box office, maybe.
Right. But also the tricky thing is though that also like the way that we use this like coded language of like universal
Mhm.
or more accessible, and
Yeah.
that means white in
Mhm.
America when when or it makes a writer, like I had a conversation with a writer being like, okay, let's talk about what we need to change. Like I said, if you got this part, it's a very uncomfortable conversation because that's when you realize that that person is not really aware that
Mhm.
they don't have to actually change anything.
Yeah.
And that's the hardest thing for me
That's
is just, you know, I
so,
can play a part and it can still
wow.
be about a woman who really wants a big job in the city, but also is dealing with her family. And it doesn't have to be about an Asian woman who really
Right.
wants a big job in the city. That's
Well,
like, and
but
that's
what's
Exactly.
so
people
different,
aren't
isn't
there.
it? I mean,
Yeah.
Yeah.
so
People aren't there yet, and that's what's really, really difficult is like I actually think the public is there. This is the crazy
I
thing.
Mhm.
think
I think the
so.
people behind the tables aren't there. They're the ones going, "Oh my God, but if we cast you, what will we have to do to make this work?" Not understanding
Yeah.
that I don't, I mean, right now obviously we're talking about being
Can you have a
Asian.
closet of kimonos? Is that
We could
possible?
also
We do
actually
that.
just have a conversation about other
No.
stuff and have it never come up that
Yeah.
we're Asian. So that's a thing that I think white people, white creatives don't actually understand. I think that
Mhm.
they don't understand that Asian people go out to dinner and don't talk about being Asian.
Yeah.
I genuinely,
I mean, it's tough. It's tough for me not to, but I try sometimes. Yeah.
you know what
No,
I mean? No,
I think exactly what you
think
mean.
it's a
Yeah,
foreign concept to consider
it
that
is.
some days I go about my day and it doesn't come up for me,
Yeah.
especially in Manhattan. And then I'm not like,
Wonderful.
oh, as an Asian woman, I'm taking a stance to drink this water. As an Asian woman, I'm opening this water bottle.
Yeah.
But like, so
Yeah.
it's baffling to me when I have to confront this because I'm like, I really, I really don't, it doesn't hinder my everyday life in a way or hinder or it's not, it's just that it just is,
Yeah.
So it's like
I.
it's just, trying to have that conversation is really just not, it's really about the people who are in charge.
Hmm. Well, that's the
Understand.
thing. Yeah, for sure. It's like you see, Kui and I have been talking about this for years, and when he was on a couple weeks ago, he brought this up where he was like, I want to see a sitcom, a drama, a movie, a TV show, whatever, where it is Asian people, but they're just people having, like you said, having a conversation, going to dinner. They're not going to dinner at a sushi restaurant. They're not going to dinner at like, Korean barbecue. They're not like a joke. They don't have a closet full of kimonos or, for
Well,
Filipinos barongs,
that
like we don't have, it's like, it's nothing to do with it. The fact that they're Asian. It's the fact that they're people just
well,
hanging,
Jimmy,
living a life.
you linked to that great comic by Shing Yen Kor,
Yeah.
who was
Hmm.
on or was a guest last week, and
Yeah.
they did this really great comic about exactly what you were just saying. It's like
Yeah.
today I don't want to write a comic about food, which comes up an awful lot in comics that are by a lot of Asian creators, Asian American creators, because of
Big
the
part of the culture. Yeah, for
course
sure.
is a super important part, or that Pixar short, but doesn't always have to. She says it doesn't always have to be about dumplings.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
it's amazing the work. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a really great.
there's a play called Edith Can Shoot and Hit Things by A. Ray Pamatmat, and when it came, it was about two siblings, and they happened to be Asian. That's how he wanted it
Mhm.
cast. Whatever. Long story short, reviews were coming out, and actual like known reviewers were writing. It was a really great play, but apparently they were Filipino, and I don't know why they never talked about it. Why didn't they talk more about their Asian heritage?
Those white people, of course, making these reviews. It's like, well, let us worry about that. It's like,
Right.
Jesus
And it
Christ.
was really uncomfortable. And this was a couple years ago, and everybody started talking about it. And it just, because it would just have never been said if they were
Yeah.
blonde. It wouldn't have been like, well, why aren't they, or redheads? Why are they talking about their obviously Irish
Yeah.
heritage? It wouldn't have come up.
Yes. Why
The
weren't
what
they?
the lack
Why
of
weren't they
no.
suddenly falling down drunk and fighting? I mean,
Yeah.
I mean, it was just like utterly unbelievable that someone wrote that and it was
Yeah.
printed and that no one thought this is weird, but that encompasses, for me at least, everything, literally
Mhm.
everything that we are fighting for, striving for, etc. right now in this
Mhm.
industry. Because you watch TV in an Asian country and they're just existing.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
well,
guys. Guess what?
so there you go.
we did a whole month of martial arts movies, and talked about some of my favorite. Jimmy, that was great. It was a good
Yeah.
fun month. But I mean, it was also like Hong Kong movies were a huge hit and a cool cult thing back in the 90s. There were a lot of filmmakers, and you watch these movies, and I mean, I remember when I first was introduced to them, exactly that. It's like, wow, there's all these amazing movie stars who are Chinese and they're great. Wow, this is so exciting to discover all these amazing, iconic performers and great stories. And yeah, it's just I just Hollywood.
Well, yeah.
We're working through it. We're just working
Here's
through
my
it as
thing.
best we can.
To what Queen and I were talking about the whole thing about, like, I remember when I was young and like in Shakespeare for years they've been doing, still do, where they take Shakespeare out of context and they make it like I did a production of Love Labor's Lost set in like the post American Civil War era. I've done post apocalyptic Macbeth, things like that. Then I remember hearing about like an all Japanese feudal Japan version of King Lear. I'm like, that sounds brilliant. I'd love to see that. And that's something I want to see more of, where it's like an all person of color, or especially all Asian American cast doing things more like that. where it's fine, where it's just not a big deal. It's nothing to do with it. Like that's why I think it's so brilliant about Hamilton. It's like, I'm gonna put a bunch of people of color in it. Who cares what they look like? It's not a big deal. It's like it's about the story and the talent and everything like that. And over the pandemic, Olivia did something sort of like that. Olivia conceived, wrote, directed this short film based on
Oh, so good.
yeah, art
Oh, I
based on Our
loved it.
Town
I loved
on a
it.
Well,
Thornton
I mean, I
Wilder. Yeah,
didn't write it, but
well,
Yeah.
conceived. You know what I mean? Like, well, you put it
Conceived.
together.
yeah,
You put it
Yeah.
conceived. Yes, right, right.
yeah.
And it was great.
I put together like a when I found out that they were announcing that like revival of Our Town that I
Mhm,
probably might be canceled now because
mhm.
it's Scott Rudin producing it, but
Yeah,
it was
yeah.
like three white guys anyway. So I took the top of the third act and I had like 50 actors of color read various parts and I edited it together and went
It's
viral.
great.
Yeah,
And
you
then
It's
did.
also,
great.
I just did the all Asian Nat. I just did NATCO Our Town last week actually.
Oh,
Yeah,
nice.
we NATCO did Our Town one night only, with
Excellent.
Amy Hill as the stage manager and Midori Francis from Dash and Lily as Emily, and I was
That's great.
playing Professor Willard, a character that no one really knows about, but it was brilliant. One page in the first act, and then I disappeared. But yeah, no, that stuff
No,
is.
so I'll say I really, really was touched by it. Just first
Yeah.
off, I mean, I love Our Town because, like most of
Same.
us, I was forced to read it in high school, and
Yep.
it became a part of me. But and it's so timeless. But it is like what Jimmy was saying with Hamilton. I mean, just the recontextualizing of it is so powerful because it's just yeah, you
It's just the problem is also like what I agree and disagree with about the public's ready for it thing, Olivia and Reggie. We may have talked about this back in the day with the comic books like that because I remember in the comic book world, um, I remember when they announced Supergirl TV show's already on, and then they announced a Supergirl movie. And I remember seeing somebody post something like a picture of a comic book cover of the blonde hair, blue eyed Supergirl, going like, just putting this up so the producers know what she should look like. I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? One, she's alien. She could look like a lizard. It doesn't matter. It's like, and it's a comic book character. I don't understand. So that's why I'm like a little hesitant. Like the public is ready because it's like, yes, a lot of them are, but a lot of them are still so close-minded. Like, no, this is what it should look like. No, in history, Hamilton was white. Why is he suddenly, Puerto Rican? Why? It's like it doesn't matter. What matters is the performance, the idea, and the fact they're putting people of color in these roles, or trying to, or attempting to. I think is important too because again, it's just showcasing like this is the world around us.
Yeah.
Like that's how it is. Rich, have you ever like when you were doing stuff like just in theater or theater and into TV like that? What are some of the things you ran across like that where it was like sort of colorblind casting. Have you ever been cast that way where it's colorblind, like Olivia said, what she was with High School Musical? How about you?
Yeah, so I did the production of Frozen at California Adventure,
Right.
before it was on Broadway and everything.
Hmm.
And I'd worked at the park at Disneyland Park for like 15 years, and I was actually about to be laid off because the last show I did had closed, and they announced the auditions for Frozen, and I was like, well, I'm not going to be cast in that. Everybody's going to be white. So um, I went and auditioned anyway, and they brought in the amazing director Liesl Tommy to direct the show, and she's a visionary,
Hmm.
and she completely colorblind cast the show.
Excellent.
So yeah, I was in part of the opening cast. I mean, we had you know uh, a girl who looks like you, Olivia, who's one of our Annas. Tiana Okoye was one of the Elsas, who's African American. Um, it was like everybody was represented on the stage, and it was just so cool because like we were a little afraid of backlash or whatever, and Disney critics can be pretty harsh, but
Yeah.
as you guys may know, but they really the audiences really took to it, and I don't think anyone was bothered by the fact that we had a black Elsa and an Asian Anna playing sisters. Like they
Nice.
didn't care because the story is universal
Hmm.
and the relationships are universal, and the actors and performances, they were very powerful. So, at the end of the day, that's what audiences want to see.
It's a good show, yeah.
I do agree with Olivia in that I think the public is more ready for it than Hollywood or whatever.
Oh yes.
Is
Yeah.
I think they're really underestimating people, because
Yeah.
if you just give it to them, they'll like it and they'll enjoy it.
Yeah,
And
I
I
actually
think
saw Frozen on Broadway, and it had a black on. I remember seeing when I was in the UK, Les Mis. I think was it the older Cosette? Yeah, the older Cosette was black, but she started out as a young white girl, played her, and then she got black. And like, I heard a couple grumbles in the second act. People were like, "Oh, wasn't she a little white girl?" But then like they seemed to get over it, like right, because the girl was so amazing.
Yeah.
Well, I will say, in the world of classical opera, which is the most conservative world of all, but they've had color and gender blind casting for centuries, actually, because, not everyone, if you can find someone who can sing like that, who cares what they look like?
Listen,
right?
I did 2 operas at my very first shows in New York. I did 2 operas at Lincoln Center with New York City Opera. I did Turandot and Matisse de Malo. And Turandot, of course, is set in China,
My favorite
and
opera.
mine too. And none of the leads were. I don't think we had any Asian. No, we had one. One of the cast, the Leo was Chinese, amazing. But but the opera world is funny. You're right. There's times when it is, times when it is. It depends on the role. But I think it's more about the voice with opera. It's more about the voice.
Right.
Although even that's getting more like diverse. They're starting to no, we should also have people who play these roles that should look these roles like that. But yeah.
I've had conversations with that. That's really tricky because I had a conversation with somebody once being like, though they shouldn't do Butterfly unless they can find an Asian person who can sing it. And that's really tricky.
It is becoming more of a conversation.
It's tricky though because it's opera and ballet. My brother's a ballet dancer, and it's like they actually did they did Butterfly the ballet, and like they actually were conscious to like cast the Asian people in leads. But obviously not all of the Asian people, not the whole, I mean, the whole thing should have been a bunch of Asian people, and obviously it wasn't. They also have, to give everyone a job who's in the company, they have to be cast in the so that's tricky too, because you've got an opera company, and like they've got to use the people who are in the company. And then they also have to do the classics. So it's like I that conversation for me is layered and not really. I don't know what side. I do know what side I fall on that. I do think that we can't exactly have the same, standard. If the best actress is white, she shouldn't be playing Madame Butterfly. But if the best opera singer is white, people want to hear her sing this particular show. Where do you stand on that? That's the thing.
I mean, obviously back in the 60s, there was the great soprano Leontine Price, who was black. And, I mean, obviously opera is not a very diverse place. But, I mean, it was a little hard for people to take at first. But, she obviously had a fantastic career, and there have been others. But wait, Olivia, wasn't your mother a ballet dancer also?
My mother was a ballet dancer, yes.
Yeah.
So she was my mother was a ballet dancer. She was not, she was, I don't know how to put, she never became, like a household name or anything.
Right. Okay. So no, that's fine.
My brother is also a ballet dancer. He lives in France. So.
So wait, I mean, I gotta ask though, like, you grew up and your father was a famous sushi chef, but I mean, did you go to like, cool Fame High School where they were like, dancing and
I did go to high school with Scarlett, so I feel really
really?
Yeah.
Oops. Sorry.
I never knew that.
She seems really nice.
We're not.
Listen,
like
I like Scarlett.
I'm barely in touch with anybody from school. I did go to high school with her in New York. So
I like
definitely knows that she's not Asian. She definitely knows she's not Asian because she went to school with a lot of Asian people. Anyway, no, I didn't go to fancy. I went to performing arts school, but it was more like for kids who are already working, kind of like.
Oh wow!
Like for the focus
one of those
academic.
But you did math to take a break.
The focus was on hardcore academia. Like it was like you're doing, you're already at Juilliard playing your violin, or you're already doing theater, so you're Scarlett Johansson, so you're just gonna try and work on. Yeah, a lot of famous people went to my school. It's kind of hilarious.
Nice.
I have my yearbook, and I was like, should I? I mean, is it weird to like
Pull
put your
it out.
yearbook
Pull it out.
on?
Let me see.
No, I mean, it's weird to like put it on eBay and be like, oh, because it's like all these famous people. It's really funny.
Oh my God, I want to see that yearbook.
Wait, I have one other question I got to ask you, Olivia, while I was doing my research. And so you're named Olivia, and your brother's named Oliver.
Yeah,
What's up with that?
They like it. They like the olive.
uncreative. I don't know. My mom said she couldn't think of anything else. I have no idea. I don't.
Listen.
Kind of like you have some time.
I have a
It's
little brother.
One shot.
Listen, I have a little brother 20 years younger than me that's named after me. So
No, a different
Absolutely.
generation. All right,
it doesn't matter. That should've
I
been-
do have a friend who is also he's Filipino American, and his name is Ray, R-E-Y, but his brothers are named Roy and Rex because they just wanted to name him King in as many languages as they could have.
Oh.
And but no, I'm sorry. I just that really cracked my funny.
I don't have an answer. It's really silly, and my mom came up with it. So
I think it's great. I think it's
And-
It's wonderful. Oh no, it's wonderful.
Reggie, what is it? What is the origin of your original?
God, you have you going?
well-
Go on, Reggie. Sorry.
Oh, I was just going to say, I didn't realize this because, again, not Latino, but somebody pointed out to me, even kind of recently, that my name Reggie De Leon translates to Lion King.
Oh my
And,
God, that's amazing.
Yeah.
God.
I was like, oh, wow, that's kind of cool.
That is awesome. Yeah, I used to have like a racist teacher in junior high because I took Spanish class obviously when I was I always took it, and like my last is a kino. You break it up, a key no. He thought it was hilarious. Hey, what's up? Not here. I'm like, oh, you're an adorable white guy, aren't you?
Oh my God.
Oh, I get it. Oh, I get it. Right.
Ugh, man.
Yeah. So we're gonna wrap up pretty soon, guys. But just real quick, I want to ask, between stage, TV, and film, we talked about like what you may prefer here and that. But when it comes to casting wise, and we sort of mentioned this, Olivia mentioned like she feels like casting directors are a little behind the public like that. But what do you feel is currently maybe more diverse, more colorblind casting right now between them? Is there a difference, or is it all the same? Yeah, I'm trying. I feel like it's tough because I feel like because obviously TV and film was more out there, we see it more. And oh yeah, that's happening more in that. That's great. But then we see things like obviously with Hamilton, whatever like that, and other shows.
I feel like a theater is doing better just because, not because of Hamilton though, because the thing about Hamilton is that is conceived to be a cast of people of color playing white people, right? That's not a decision where they were like, we're doing a show about Hamilton. Let's see, is it okay if we cast people?
Yeah.
But because we have things like, we're having, like actually when Frozen closed, Elsa was black. Sierra was doing it, and like so I actually think theater is actually ahead because of things like that. Because I still don't see in film and TV it not being a qualifier when we're talking about leads. So like Reggie and I can probably exist as recurring characters who are funny or whatever, or show up and do blah blah blah. But it's not necessarily like, at least for me yet, where I'm playing a lead and it isn't a topic. Like if I'm playing a lead on TV, it's gonna be a story about some Asian person having some Asian issue. Okay. So so like I feel like in some ways theater is ahead because of things like Elsa being black. Do you know what I mean? And not explain, and we're not going to explain anything.
Exactly.
Whereas I think in TV and film, when you do see, or it has to just be a gigantic. It's so great that we have, Always Be My Maybe. It's so great that we have. What am I trying? I'm trying to think of something else that
To all the boys I've loved before.
Right. Okay. That's
Condor series.
We have a couple things.
Yeah. Not many, but yes.
But then we got a bunch of things that are as important as they are for representation, centered around being Asians, like Crazy Rich Asians, like Fresh Off the Boat. So it's like I don't know.
Yeah.
That's my take on it right
Yeah.
now. Right now, I think theater's actually getting there faster because there's also just more of a push because theater people are more into like the activism, they're more into the speaking up. There's less at stake because we're not making that much money. So like, no one's like,
Yeah.
people aren't really like gonna protest like, NBC. Like, come
Yeah.
on. And then they're not really gonna listen. So there's more of a communication and a push happening with theater right now and TV and film. We're still not we're just not at the place yet where we're just like you got Hades Town. Even though Lozada's playing the lead, she's not like talking about being Asian, like that.
Yeah.
That's what I'm. Yeah.
Yeah. How
Yeah.
about you, Reg? What do you think?
Yeah, I totally agree. It's kind of frustrating when you audition for TV film projects and they say, "Oh, open all ethnicities for a lead," and then you see it and it's inevitably a white person
Yeah, of
in
course.
the lead.
All
You know,
ethnicities that are white.
yeah, it's just. I mean, I feel like they say that because
They have to
need
now.
to,
Yeah.
right? They have to.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, they know they're gonna cast a white person in that lead.
Yeah.
I mean, it's representation is happening at a snail's pace, but it is happening in TV and film. But yeah, I do feel like theater is way more progressive in that respect because
Yeah, I agree.
yeah, they are willing to take the risk. And at the end of the day, it is because of it's all down to money. That's what it all
Yeah.
comes to.
Yep.
Yeah.
There's a lot less
Absolutely.
at stake, and people are louder, and there's more of a conversation because they're also just willing to. I've also been more. I stand up for myself more in theater all the time. Like, oh, I don't want to play that part. I'm not going in for that role. I'm good enough to play the lead while I'm auditioning for the friend. And it's just I don't have that voice, and I also don't have that communication in the TV film world because I'm not really like in front of the powers that be like I would be in a theater room. But yeah, it really also just takes a director who has a vision and the power and that they're in charge. And that's another thing because like in the TV film world there are so many people who have a say. Like the creative team could want you, and the network could say no, they're not going to sell paper towels during the
Right. Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
like whereas in the theater, like part of why Liesel with Frozen, which was so incredible, and I because I saw it and in Disney and in California, and like I just remember like gosh, because Liesel's a black female director, and if she decided that she was going to make this show look like she wanted it to look like, and if she wasn't a black female director who had that, who knows, So I
Yeah.
think
Right.
that is it really is on. I mean, props to Disney for saying okay,
Yeah.
that's also on them too, but she really had a vision of what she was going to do, and she wasn't going to do it unless they were going to support that. And in the TV film world, it's just there are so many cooks in the kitchen, and there are so many people
Yeah.
involved, and there's so
And
many hierarchies and things people you
yeah.
have to pass, and the director could want you and the casting director could want you, and that doesn't mean you're going to get it. And
That's
Yeah.
right.
yeah.
Well, goes back to the money thing. Like I get that Emma Stone and Scarlett Johansson and all these other ones are box office draws.
Yeah.
Like unfortunately it's like yeah, they'll bring in more people than you know, maybe Gemma Chan or, actresses like that, and it's just like, it's unfortunate, but it's like, I get the money thing behind it, but it's like, why not give it a shot? Like, a lot of people didn't think Crazy Rich Asians would work, but it did. And it's like, oh, look, a cast of predominant, if not all Asians and many Asian Americans, of course, in there. And it's like, look, it did well. And then nothing happens after that, really. It's
Well,
like,
I
it's
feel,
a couple things here and there.
it's taken some very unfortunate and tragic things to happen to really get us to have more of a conversation about this. And,
Yeah.
but there is hopeful signs, and I hope it's amazing to me that it's taken this long. That I mean, just as an observer and somebody who enjoys movies and TV that are full of all kinds of people, and I don't know.
Yeah.
It's amazing. So
Well, I'm
I hope
also
we're getting there. I hope we're getting there.
and also
Mm.
happy the Asian cinema in general, not just Asian
Mhm.
America, is doing so well, and obviously being led by
Well,
like people like Bong Joon-ho and Chloe Zhao and like that. And it's like,
well, Korean and
yeah,
Korean culture is obviously having a huge arrival here in America. And, wait till we get all the Korean dramas. Well, of course,
we
Jimmy
have them. They're on Netflix. I
yeah,
watched
they're
them.
already here. They're getting better known. I mean, Jimmy and his K-pop obsession. Oof,
I'm not
boy.
ashamed, but Heidi always makes fun of me and belittles me so
I
much.
just make fun.
But,
I don't make fun. I don't make fun.
I love
I
it. It's
just
brilliant.
mention. Look,
And
I love
because
my
of it-
wrestling. Okay,
Exactly,
so
which I
we
think is
all
garbage,
have
but whatever, it's fine.
our
But
favorites.
also great acting, great acting in wrestling.
Yes.
No, because of K-pop, I've gotten into like the K-dramas, like all the different, like even variety shows, and I have a ton of Korean friends and Japanese
And
friends. I'm always
I
Asians
think
all over, so it's like,
the
all sorts
kids.
of culture.
The kids are way ahead, like you say. They're way ahead of Hollywood producers. Like kids, the TikTok kids, and they are
Those
just
TikTokers.
they are militant about
what's up.
representation, thank God. And they're not going to stand for, I feel like there's a lot of them who just aren't going to stand for these old tropes and Emma Stone being Hawaiian. So
Yeah. Mhm. For sure, that's right. So what do you guys got coming up? What's next now that we're slowly emerging, although some places too fastly emerging out of the pandemic? What do you guys got coming up, Reg?
The pandemic's been very slow for me.
Yeah.
But in that time I did get to voice Raya. I
Mhm.
did an episode in the last season of Mom. A couple weeks ago I shot an episode of The Other Two.
Yeah.
It's I think the first season was on Comedy Central, and then
Mhm.
the new season's premiering on HBO Max, but I don't know when. But I had a fun little scene I got to do with Wanda Sykes, so
No, nice.
that was cool. Yeah,
Excellent.
shooting
How
during
about,
the pandemic's weird, man. It's just
I've seen a lot of behind the scenes stuff. It's like, ooh, yeah, that's gotta be
yeah.
tough. It's gotta be tough.
I'm really looking forward to things kind of getting back to normal.
Yeah, I hear you.
yeah.
How about you, Olivia?
Well, I tested for a pilot and I didn't get it. So
I know, sorry.
Oh
So
yeah.
now I'm just like now I'm at the point where I'm laughing about it because I was like it would have been fun to like tell no. I don't really have anything super going on except I have had this nanny job for a year and today is my first day off of my summer vacation. I'm just gonna keep it real, you guys.
Yeah.
Right
I
on.
had to get a full-on nanny job to support myself during this. I also started an Etsy store because there's just nothing.
Yeah, go check our
else.
Etsy store. Some really great
Yeah,
stuff on
my
there.
Etsy store, and then so today's my first day off of my vacation
Oh.
for a month from my
Yeah.
day
Well,
job.
thank you
I'm
for taking
already
time.
sad.
Thank you so much
But I'm
for
just sad because I
stopping by.
miss her.
Yeah.
Anyway, so I'm very sad. Today's been actually rough because I miss her so much. Because she's like the best.
Aw,
Yeah.
we
So,
hope this
Esme,
brightened
I
your day a
love
little
you.
bit.
I love you, Esme. I'm
Jimmy and
sorry.
I are
Esme.
here for you.
That's
Also,
right, we got it.
we're here for you.
Summer, I miss you so
You
much.
can
Well,
we need
that's
a
actually a
nanny,
really good
boy, do
point.
we?
That's a really good point on that is like actors, in general, whether we're Asian American or whatever. It's like, yeah, it's not a steady gig unless you talked about, you're working in TV and film more. But it's like, I bartended and waited tables between gigs all the time. I'd come back in town from a tour, get back in a restaurant for, a few months, go back on a tour, go do a show regionally or something. And it's just like, it's the life, man, until you can eventually become a working
Yeah.
actor. Like that happens.
I
Part of it.
yeah, so I don't have really anything. I'm Our Town was the NatCo Our Town was like last week and we did that. And
Well, I'm sure
I
something will come
I
soon. I'm
think-
not worried. You will get work
think
soon.
You'll sneak back and
Yeah.
be doing something pretty awesome very
Yeah.
soon. It's my
I
feeling.
mean, whatever. It's all good. I'm like I'm not. I'm also like honestly, I have managed to, keep the lights on, and I'm happy and proud of that. So whatever I had, it's been yeah. There's been nothing really going
And
on.
also, it's Memorial Day in New York, although it's going to be like 50 degrees tomorrow. So
Yeah, it's gonna rain.
as
Oh,
soon as
weekend,
it's
too.
raining. Oh my gosh! Wait,
It's gonna
it
rain
just
all weekend. Yeah.
rained,
Yeah.
I think.
yeah.
But
Thank-
yeah.
Surprise!
Yeah. So let's end on with you guys.
Yes.
So we've talked about it over the past month. Heidi and I, we did a whole special on with Quee about recommending TV and film with Asian Americans like that. What are a couple things from each of you that you'd recommend to check out, either starring by or about Asian Americans?
Gosh, I feel like we've mentioned everything already.
I know.
Between like Dash and Lily and To All the Boys and Raya and
Yeah.
I mean, sadly, there's still just such a lack of
Mhm.
work out there.
Yeah, no, right. There's like we've talked about all the things. There isn't a lot. I can give one real specific thing, but it's
Sure.
not Asian American,
It's
which
all
is
right.
Netflix. Netflix, this Japanese TV show. It's called The Naked Director.
Mm-hmm.
I highly recommend The Naked Director.
Oh, I'll
It's
check
about
that
the
out.
Japanese porn industry in the
Ooh,
70s.
Oh,
sounds
Oh, that's
intriguing.
good.
Writing it
hey,
down.
write that down right now.
Yeah,
The
But
naked
it's like
Naked
director.
Director.
it's
Subscribe.
extremely good. It's excellent.
Yeah.
It's not Asian American. Oh, the other thing, well, this is barely get there, but in New York, I just went to the opening night of Moliere in the park last night.
Oh, our friend Kate Rig.
So
Yes.
Kate Rig is
Nice.
just amazing Asian American,
She was gonna be Amish. Yeah.
basically my mentor, my everything,
I
and
love Kate.
she's an Asian woman who plays Tartuffe in Tartuffe in
Amazing.
Moliere
Nice.
Park. And it's the
Nice.
first time I'd seen live theater, in
Oh
forever.
my God,
So
that's
it was like
Yeah.
it's a crazy experience, but I would say honestly anything she's working on, she's got a ton of stuff.
She's
She's always
brilliant.
creating. She's throwing stuff up on Joe's Pub live stream. She's doing her band Slanty Eyed Mama.
Yeah.
So
Our
I
lyrics,
I would
yeah.
definitely say keep an eye out for anything Kate's doing and anything Natco's doing. Natco is starting to do some new stuff. Mayi has a Mayi Studios
Yeah.
now, so they're doing a lot too. I did something for them during the pandemic as well.
Nice.
We actually filmed something and we actually went into a studio, and it was
Oh, wow.
really like the first time that I had been, and there were all these protocols and all the actors were filmed separately, and
Mhm.
then it was made to look like we were together.
Wow,
That's
that's
awesome.
crazy.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah,
It-
Kate I met through my mutual friend Carrie Preston. They went to Juilliard together, and Kate's been on a couple of our anniversary shows. Her and Laris, their group Slanty Eyed Mama. And Kate was going to come on this, but she's busy doing Tartuffe. So she was like, "Oh, I'd love to, but
Oh,
this week is crazy for
I'm
me."
sorry,
And I wanted her to come on.
I'm
Yeah,
acting.
I was like, "Hell yeah, you're
yeah,
working.
she's
Why not?
doing
For
she's
sure."
doing Tartuffe, yeah. So
Amazing.
yeah,
That's
last
awesome.
night was
That's awesome.
opening. So
That's so
Yeah.
great, though. I mean, honestly, like here again, I don't know. How is it in LA? Are things starting to open up a little bit there, Reggie? Or, things to do?
You mean like live theater wise?
Yeah.
Not so much. The state is supposed to completely reopen on June 15th, though.
Oh,
So
Oh, wow.
all restrictions
Okay.
will be stripped away. So mass chaos will ensue.
and mask chaos. Awesome.
Yeah, mask.
Yeah.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I don't know. I actually just got cast in this thing. It's called Madcap Motel, and it's like an immersive kind of theater experience.
Oh, yeah.
And yeah, I'm starting in a couple weeks, but people in small groups kind of walk through these different rooms, and so that kind of stuff is happening. They opened about a month ago, but in terms of like sitting at a theater with a bunch of strangers, I like of more than 100 or 50, that definitely isn't happening yet. And I don't know when it will.
Well, my movie theater, Kips Bay, is open. So
Really?
Yeah, a lot of
Yeah.
movie theaters are
movie theaters are open here, and
Wow.
I'm still not going though, but yeah.
yeah, I don't know. I might go to a screening if it's. I don't know. We'll see.
Well,
Some
here's
of my
the thing.
friends are going
Mask
to the theater.
mask restrictions are already here in are lifting here in New York, but I'm telling you what, I'm gonna wear a mask till the day I die because everyone that comes to the bar, they're like, and I tell them how old I am, which is of course old. They're like, "What? You look so much younger!" Like they're being ridiculous, saying, "I know I don't look my age. None of us do because Asian." But it's like, I know I don't look 28, 30 like some of them are saying, but they're like, "I thought you're like 28 or 30." I'm like, "You're my new best friend, and we're gonna hang out."
Wear the mask.
Like
I know, wear
also,
the
it's
mask.
like hot or not, hot, not hot, not. So it's
Right?
like we all look hot in masks. Come on, it's great. But yeah, thank you guys both so
Yeah,
much
thank
for
you
joining.
so
I
much.
really
Thank you
appreciate
so
it.
much.
One, it was just an excuse to see your faces because I haven't seen you guys in a while, especially Reggie. My God, it's been like 100 years.
Yeah, literally.
So I know, like literally, but so great to see you guys, and thank you for joining and having this great
Yeah.
conversation about
Thank
being
you so
Americans
much.
in
Really
theater and
wonderful.
TV and film. It's awesome.
Yay, thanks
And
for
we'll have to
having
get you
us.
back on in the future when it's not about Asian stuff. We'll just have you
Yeah.
on, even though we all are.
phenomenally.
Oh,
That's right. I'd say to go that phenomenally. There's a website you can get these at. Phenomenal.
You can also get them on Amazon. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah,
that's awesome.
Get these
Shoot.
here. Yeah.
I should
Yeah,
have
for
worn my East West Players. I don't know if you guys have heard of East West Players, but they're like the first Asian, I think the first Asian American theater in the
Oh,
nation. But they're based here in Los Angeles, and they printed up these shirts that Sandra Oh said for her.
Oh, I have one. Yeah, yeah, I have one.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
It's an honor just to be Asian. Yeah.
Yeah, those are great. Yeah, I gotta get. Oh, I gotta wear
I
those.
should have worn that shirt today.
Sorry. Yeah, the Phenomenal Asian one started with the Phenomenal Woman site, phenomenalwoman.us site, where so they have all different types. There was Phenomenal Women,
nice.
Phenomenal Asian, things like that. So check that out. Once again, thanks, guys. We're gonna get out of here though, close it up. But I am Jimmy Aquino with the weekly podcast Comic News Insider, covering TV, comics, films. Every week I do interviews, I do specials, all sorts of stuff. You can find it at comicnewsinsider.com, but you can find me online at Jimmy Aquino. That's JIMMYAQUINO on all the socials, Instagram, Twitter, etc.
And I'm Heidi McDonald, the editor-in-chief of The Beat. Again, at comicsbeat.com, writing about all things comic books, comic book movies, all things comic book. And you can find me on all social media at ComixAce, COMIXACE.
And you guys are online. Reggie, where can we find you?
Oh, I'm terrible at social media. So.
You have a great website, though. You do have a great website. So you check out Reggie's website. He's got clips of all his work and all sorts of information. So all his glowing reviews.
Awesome,
And it looks like Olivia froze up on us at the end.
Well, she is on Twitter, OLIOGUMA, and I think she's just Olivia Oguma on Instagram as well.
Yes, check out her Instagram for that Etsy shop, which is really cool. But thank you again so much, you guys.
Thank you. This was really fun.
Awesome.
It's a good Friday. And everybody have a great Memorial Day weekend.
That's right. All right. And keep celebrating. We still got a few days left in Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, guys. So keep celebrating. Thank you so much, everybody. We'll see you next time. Bye.